Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. In this lesson, we will learn about unit cells. Most metal crystals are one of the major types of unit cells. So, first of all, what is the unit cells? Unit cells is the small repeat units and stacked together in 3 dimensions. Okay, just imagine the unit cell as a large wall that made up of many identical bricks and it is stacked together in repeating pattern. Okay, it is the unit cell. Okay, in this lesson, okay, we will focus on the 3 cubic unit cell. And for your informations, when we learn about solid, okay, you have to know that there are 14 different type of unit cells in the solid topic. Okay, but in this lesson, we will focus on the 3 cubic unit cell, which is the simple cubic unit cell. Okay, this one. The body-centered cubic unit cell. Okay, you can see here, there is one atom inside the unit cells. Okay, and we have the face-centered cubic cell. Okay, face-centered cubic unit cell. So, in our lesson, we will discuss and learn about these 3 cubic unit cell. Okay, first we go to the simple cubic unit cell. Okay, this is the unit cell, cubic unit cell. You can see it is in the cubic shape. Okay, for the simple cubic unit cell, you can see here, the metal has an atom at each of its 8 corner. You can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Okay. This atom, okay, we shared with 7 neighboring cubes that came together at the same point. Okay. You can see here. So, it just only 1/8, okay, 1/8 of each corner atoms belongs to a given cubic unit. Okay. So, since each sample cubic unit cell has one atom at each of its 8 corner, okay, one atom of each corner, so we can calculate it like this. We can know how many atoms in the simple cubic unit cell. So, because one atoms at each of its 8 corner, so we can say that 8 times by 1/8, okay, because we have 8 atoms, okay, and we divide by 8 corner, we have just 1 atom contained in the simple cubic unit cell. Okay, actually we just have 1 atom in the simple cubic unit cell. Okay. Now we go to the body-centered cubic cell. You can see here, A body-centered cubic cell also has 8 corner atoms here, okay, but it will plus by an additional atom, okay, in the center of the cube. You can see here, we have 1 additional atoms in the center of the cube. Okay, atoms in the corner, okay, is just same with the simple cubic unit cell, okay. But in this case, in the body-centered cubic cell, okay, atoms in the corner of the body-centered do not contact each other. You can see here, this atom did not contact each other, but it contact with atom in the center. Okay, so a body-centered cubic cell unit, okay, will contains, okay, first we can calculate like what we have calculated in the simple cubic unit cell. Okay, each of the atom at the corner, okay, so we have 8, we times by 1/8 of the corner, okay, because we have 8 corner. So we have 1 atoms at the corner, okay, so we have 1 atoms, okay, then we have to add with 1 atoms at the center, okay, because here at the corner we have 1, okay, and we have to add with the 1 atom at the center. So in the body-centered cubic unit cell, we have 2 atoms that contains in the body-centered cubic unit cell. Okay, for example of metals with a body-centered cubic cell is like barium, chromium and iron. But it is in the room temperature. Okay, so we go to another unit cell that we want to focus in this lesson. It is the face-centered cubic unit cell. Okay, you can see here, it's also the same because it is also cubic unit cell, right? So, a face-centered cubic unit cell also has 8 corner. Okay. 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 So each of the corner we also have 1 atoms. But in the face-centered cubic unit cell, we have an additional atoms on each of its 6 faces of the cubic unit cell. Okay. In the cubic unit cell, we have 6 faces, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, upper one and the lower one. Okay. So we have 6 for the total of the faces. Okay. Okay. So atoms will have on the each of 6 faces. Okay. But the atoms shared with one other neighboring cube. So we will get half of the atoms on the faces. Okay, so it just half. Okay, it is just half of each face atoms belong to a given unit cell. Okay, so the calculation will be like this. Okay, first we just calculate by same by the simple cubic unit cell because it is just same. We have 8 atoms on the corner of the cubic unit cell. So we have 8 divided by 8 because we have 8 corner and we have 1 atom. Okay, so for the faces of the cubic unit cell, so we have 6 faces here. Okay, so but we have to divide by 2 because it shared with one other neighboring cube, right? So we just have 3 atoms. Okay, so the atoms that contains in the face-centered cubic unit cell is 4 atoms. Okay, so we have to know that for the face-centered cubic unit cell, we have 4 atoms. Okay, and for the body-centered cubic unit cell, we have 2 atoms, right? So, and the simple cubic unit cells, we have 1 atoms from our calculation. Okay, so the example for the face-centered cubic unit cells metal is like aluminium, copper, and lead. Okay, so now in this lesson, you have know, okay, and learn about the 3 cubic unit cell, which is simple cubic unit cell. Okay, second is the body-centered cubic unit cell, and third is the face-centered cubic unit cell. So that's all for this lesson. Thank you and stay tuned.